Hey, welcome back to Content Marketing World Chatter, sponsored to you by RYOT Studio, and we have our sponsor here with us now for this segment, Kathryn Friedrich. Thank you very much for joining us, and thank you also for sponsoring this series. It's been a lot of fun.
You're welcome. It's been great to watch online and see the previous presenters and conversations you've had with people.
Yeah, there haven't been too many complaints so far.
Good.
You know, we try to keep it peaceful. So tell us first about RYOT Studio.
Yeah, so RYOT started out as an independent humanitarian filmmaking documentary company, and we were acquired by AOL, and now we're part of this larger company of Verizon, Yahoo, and AOL. And RYOT is the in-house creative studio for that entire group and portfolio of brands. So what we're trying to do and what we're working with our advertising partners on is trying to connect the unmatched distribution that we have with those Oath brands and the portfolio with RYOT's purposeful storytelling and actionable content for consumers.
Yeah, and I think I read the announcement about you making the move over there in Variety less than a year ago, right?
Yeah, I've been here for probably about 6-7 months now.
Okay.
So just February.
So what I imagine they want, with your deep experience from Google and YouTube, you're a perfect match for someone who knows what's going to work and how to help shape stories. Can you tell us a little bit about how your experience from the YouTube days helps you guide and direct storytelling?
Sure. So YouTube was a phenomenal learning and testing ground. When I started at Google, I want to say 12, 15 years ago, I was at Google for a better part of a decade. They had just purchased YouTube and trying to figure out how to monetize it. What it turned out to be was this amazing platform for content creators, as well as an opportunity for brands to reach their customers through content. What I learned through being there, and actually it's been incredibly helpful now that I'm at Oath, is that content and just developing an audience isn't the end game, for brands anyway. You can create amazing stories and consumers love them, but brands have different ideas on where they want to be and who they want to be partnered with. So what is fascinating and amazing about RYOT being part of Oath is that we have a portfolio of brands that are tremendous at reaching an audience in this brand safe environment, and there's actually real content that we own. At YouTube, we didn't own anything, so it was constantly this partner trying to connect the dots between brands and influencers, whereas we have the influencers at Oath, we own the content, so we really understand the audiences that are there, not only what they're watching, but why they're watching it. And so from our perspective, when we're creating content for brands, we're actually tapping into all of that data and insight from a what and a why to understand the consumer. So we're building content specifically for the distribution outlets that we have.
So my role in the past has been like writing and producing comedy videos for IBM and Cisco.
Yeah.
The challenge for us is we always wanted to try to build an audience and put a long-term plan together for content. The budget wasn't there.
Yep.
Budget's always tied to some product group, and the only time we get a chance to make a video is when a launch was coming up and there was launch money attached, and they say, hey, we need a launch video. And it was always these one-offs.
Yeah.
How do you convince a brand what the value is of taking this kind of comprehensive strategy across content?
It's definitely hard, and it's particularly hard because digital is held to a higher standard.
Yeah.
It's known for the return on investment. And if you're not showing immediate return on investment, it's really hard to prove that there was value there. What I presented earlier today was a couple of pieces of research where we looked back at campaigns of brands who were running across the spectrum of advertising. So not only upper funnel activity like content and investment in content, but also all of the lower funnel, like acquisition marketing type of content products. So programmatic, things like that. When we looked at year over year and saw when investment dollars decreased in content, the whole social conversation around that brand decreased by more than 60%.
Really?
Yep. So it really helps to prime the funnel. You just have to look over a longer period of time.
Right.
That immediate investment to ROI is hard to see, but if you keep more of an always-on strategy and always-on conversation, it actually proves to be incredibly beneficial in the long run. There's some marketers out there, I think, that do a great job, like Geico, for instance. Everybody knows that gecko,
right.
and no matter what the message is now, you see it. But I'm sure when they first launched that campaign, nobody knew the gecko, but they had enough wherewithal to keep it going and develop that brand equity in order to make those returns on investments work for them. There are lots of brands that are leaning in, but they have to give it time.
I imagine that 60% number gets people's attention.
Yeah.
And then they're saying, okay, we need to rethink this, and how do we change the budget around that?
We've seen exactly that. Once with this particular advertiser I have in mind, that saw that 60% drop year over year in social conversations, they started to invest in content, and surprisingly, almost immediately they saw social conversations go up. So I think it was you can see that direct correlation to the spike in social conversations for brands once the investment back in content. And the interesting is they didn't change any other part of their marketing budget, just the turn off of content and the turn on of content. So it was a really apples to apples comparison year to year.
Now, how could you, what's the best way you can offer support to more of a middle tiered company, which may not have a huge marketing budget or broadcast budget, that type of thing?
I don't think you need a huge budget to make an impact. I think you just need to use the budget smartly and think of it more as a program versus a campaign.
Right.
And that's where a lot of people get tripped up. They think, well, I'm going to create this one piece of content and hope to break through the clutter of all of the content that's out there, and that's usually not going to work. But if you take the more holistic view and a longer term approach and think, I'm an automotive company, I'm going to launch 5 big cars this year. How do you string the message together, not create something separate for each one? So use economy of scale. I would look at movies. Studios is similar. They have how many blockbusters a year? 10 to 14 maybe. How do you leverage and create that always-on conversation and connection so that you're not always starting from scratch every time you launch something new? So I think there's ways to do it where it's a smaller investment over time that adds up to the big results. But it's difficult. And I think when you look at, so you really don't have a blockbuster kind of budget, lean into written as well as video. It doesn't always have to be a super high produced video in order to get the attention. If you know that your audience likes to reads the news, we can tell you all of those statistics from looking at our portfolio of brands and looking at the insights and data we have, and we can say, you know what, 3 articles of content is really what's going to resonate here. Written content doesn't have to be a blockbuster video series over time.
Right, with Bruce Willis.
Yeah, we don't need Bruce Willis.
We can let him go this time.
Right,
Great.
exactly. We can get the stunt double.
So how can we find out more? Is the best place to go to RYOTstudio.com online?
Yes,
Is that the best?
you
We can
got
find
it.
some good stories there.
You will find some good stories. We're revamping our website, which is relaunching, should actually be launching now. So,
Okay.
So you'll see some more there. We're going to continue to update it and populate more of the stories and brands that we're working with. But that's probably the best place to go.
Great.
Yeah, awesome.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you
So
for
good to
supporting this
chat.
and coming up with all this for us. And thanks for speaking to us.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Tim. Pleasure to be here.
All right. Take care, Kathryn.
All right.
Bye.